Homakani, Homaya Bemi, Nishanana Mimi Wakamni, Lidum Lily Yapimni, Daspa Hedidi. Hi.
Hey.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's going. Welcome to our first episode of Nisem Kawak. We are here. So we have a lot of content to bring to you guys. We are starting our is it live? Do we call it a live? Sometimes it'll be live. Our video blog, our show.
Today's recorded.
Today's recorded. Yeah. It may be live, it may be recorded, it may be produced in the future. Right now, it's going to be raw. And I think we've just decided that we have a lot of content that we want to get out to you because it's Nisenan Heritage Month. And we're really taking the opportunity to share. And taking into account that there is such an arc of what people know about the Nisenan, about Nevada City Rancheria, and about CHIRP, the California Heritage Indigenous Research Project, which is the organization that was founded and started by Judith Lowry with the sole task in mind to support the tribe and to educate the community that the tribe is still here and that we have been here in our homelands continuously. Thousands of years before the gold rush came. And though we were, we were successfully erased from our homelands, and it has been 10, 12 years of really working very, very hard with deep diligence to change that. That we want the tribe to be visible. We need community support. We have a lot to offer. There's so much beautiful culture to share with community and to really build that sense of pride within the tribe to be visible. There's really something about erasure that is, even though the people were still living here, it felt absolute. And so, as Judith had said, we need to annotate the record. We need to set history straight. There's a lot of along with some of the history that is out there, a lot of it is incorrect. And so taking this opportunity, really using CHIRP to its full capacity, its mission to preserve, protect, and perpetuate Nisenan culture is at the heart of every program and every project that CHIRP does. So we're coming to you, again, Nisenan Heritage Month. So I'd like to introduce us. We are the hosts. I don't have a mic on, so I can touch myself. Oh, sorry. When we're filming, usually I can't ever touch my necklaces, and I try to hold very still because it bangs the mic, so I feel a bit free. So I'm the executive director of CHIRP, and I'm also the spokesperson for the Nevada City Rancheria. And my cohort here, Ember, who sort of literally fell into my life one morning walking in Nevada City outside of, where were you? Foxhound. Yeah. And she poked out and said, "Are you Shelley?" And that was it. From then on, she got sucked into the whirling chaos of what is CHIRP and the Nevada City Rancheria. Ember started out with we had to have a title for something we were doing, and she's my executive assistant, but she's so much more than that. She really is at the heart of our communications and outreach. Most everything you will see on social media is because she's the master behind the scenes, making sure that the things that we're doing in the community are seen by other people. And I'm not good at, I go from this to this to this, and I forget about it. The next day I'm like, I don't remember what I've done. I absolutely don't collate the talks that I've done and the presentations and any articles that I've written. I really don't keep track of that. So Ember has come on, really is communications and outreach, also in the event production realm. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, well, I also want to just make it clear that I'm not a member of the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe. Sometimes there's confusion around that.
Because she looks so Indian. Yeah.
I'm a CHIRP team member and happy to be working alongside Shelley, but that's my role.
I'm so glad. It's great to have, I don't want to say collusion. I guess it's kind of collusion. It's great to have help and assistance. there's so much work that's done just because it needs to be done. CHIRP has come really and become our vessel, our vehicle, our boat, if you will, for getting, there's so much content and so much just beauty that needs to be shared, and history, the retelling of history from the Native lens and the Native perspective as to what happened here. And there's so much to do, and CHIRP really has become our vehicle for receiving donations, for writing for grants. CHIRP has a bank account, which the tribe. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the sort of like a triad of the three. So there's the Nisenan people, and while Nisenan territory goes all the way down deep into Sacramento, below Sacramento actually, to the Consumnes River. The people who identify with Nevada City Rancheria are just a portion of that entire Nisenan landscape. And so our tribe, our territory really was very wide east to west, west to east, I guess I should say, oriented that way, and a little bit more shallow for the north to south. So this breadth of tribal territory that the Nisenan people here governed for thousands and thousands of years does not include the entirety of Nisenan territory. There are other tribal groups that have always been separate, with the separate tribal governments, separate leaders, separate holy people, separate family hierarchies, with a distinct territory that they took care of. There was obviously the natural resources that were cultivated and stewarded for trade. There are very distinct boundaries. Just our territory just goes south below the Bear River, where you come up with the Auburn people, who have always been a separate people. So we're very conscientious of ever stepping into other people's territory. When we do go outside of our territory, it's important to ask for permissions, or at least, I know, today is America. You can drive anywhere you want from coast to coast. You really don't need anybody's permission. But, to be respectful. And I think it's important to let other folks know who we are and where we are from. So the Nevada City Rancheria is another layer. So that is the entity that was recognized by the federal government in 1913. We were originally recognized through a presidential executive order by then President Woodrow Wilson, and we were his first executive order when he went into his position as president. And as things would have it, his wife had connections here in Nevada County with the suffragette movement. So I'd always wondered how this little tiny tribe up in the foothills of California, like how did that happen? Because we're trying to replicate that now. Unfortunately, the Nevada City Rancheria was terminated in 1964, and so a huge part of the work that CHIRP does is to support the tribe in getting the restoration of federal recognition. So that's where CHIRP comes in as I had said, that vehicle for doing a lot of the work that needs to be done to support the tribe. And, it really has, we were talking a little bit earlier about early on, it's like casting this wide net, like throwing it, not really knowing where it's going to land, just like putting it out there. Talking to folks like who, you meet people who, maybe part of it's just magic, I don't know, but meeting the people like I feel like I met Ember, like I needed this type of help that you bring. And there she was, boing, she just sort of landed on the street that day, not literally. But CHIRP is there to create projects, to get these things on the ground that support the tribe. Anything and everything that supports the tribe is something that is under CHIRP's umbrella. Sometimes there are so many things that need to be done. It's really hard to pick and choose. Luckily, I can rely on the tribal council and the tribe itself. I am a tribal member. I'm on the tribal council, so I really have a deep connection with the needs that the tribe has. And level of importance and priority moves depending on, obviously the political landscape for recognition, on how much capacity we have at any given moment. So many things that are so important get moved off to this side of the desk because there's just either not enough funding or not enough capacity, or the landscape just isn't ripe at any given moment for any certain project. But the programs at CHIRP that we have, it goes from economic development to the health of the tribal member to environmental health, which are, just completely tied together so tightly. I personally can't disassociate the health of the earth and the landscape here with the health of the people. Cultural revitalization and protection efforts. There's the documentation and the protecting, creating of an archive of the history, of the language, of all these things. There's just so many places that I feel like we have to have our eyes, and always a little scared that, I'm going to drop the ball on any subject at any time. And sometimes, of course, funds sort of dictate if we get it, we're successful for a grant, obviously that is going to dictate what is slid up on the sheet of importance at any given time. So I hope that's kind of clear. People wonder, what's the association? Like, what is Nevada City Rancheria? What are the Nisenan? Who are the Nisenan people, and what is CHIRP? And that I feel that we're just being as creative as possible at any given moment to really bring back the visibility of the Nisenan people, reestablish the federal relationship with the Nevada City Rancheria, and then for CHIRP to be a flourishing, well-staffed one day.
Yes, on our way.
We will have a plethora of staff that can be tasked and paid to grab these programs and just, get all the information, the verbiage, how you say it right, being the most respectful, all the ways that we need to do it, and then, yay, send them off down the field, right? I mean, that's what our hope is. So out of that conversation, one of the programs, I guess it would fall under our economic development program in CHIRP, but is the Ancestral Homelands Reciprocity program, which is one of our projects, or we call it an initiative, right? It's a community initiative that has really grown because of the community excitement. Would you say excitement?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So Ember, if you wanted to talk, a little bit about ARP, how it was created and what it is doing to support all of these amazing things that I've just talked about.
Yeah, it feels like there have been so many times and ways in which community members are looking for ways to be in support of CHIRP and of the tribe. And I feel like ARP, or Ancestral Homelands Reciprocity Program, was born out of that. There actually was a time, it's been almost 2 years ago, I think, where Shelley gave a public talk about the history of the tribe for people to learn more. And it was very well attended. It was, and she gave a very powerful talk, and I feel like people were really engaged and got really excited. And it was actually in that meeting, I guess I'll call it, that someone there had brought up the idea of offering some sort of an ongoing honoring to the tribe. And it turned out that there had been a few team members, a few volunteers of CHIRP that had recently learned about the Shumi land tax, which is something that happens in the Bay Area on Ohlone lands, and had gotten really excited about that model and had wanted to create something like that for CHIRP. And so it was sort of already like marinating, but didn't really yet have its way to fit in. So when Shelley gave this talk and it was suggested again, it really, you could feel it in the room, like catch on. People got excited and wanted to be a part of it. And there was even one person there who stood up and said, we want to be among the first to participate in this program. And so that gave it its really like the water on the seed, it felt like. And we very quickly thereafter formed a little team of volunteers to sort out the details of creating a program.
Got our logo.
Yeah, got a logo, had volunteers, helped with creating that logo with, really there were probably a couple meetings where we talked about the name alone and just all that kind of goes into that, and having it be something that the tribe could feel good about and comfortable with.
When that word tax came up, like Mom's no.
Yeah.
And we don't want to
or
ask
reparations. Like there were definitely words that came in that were like, nope, that's not it.
They don't like feeling like they're pushing people, like they really want, especially the elders, they want it to be, I guess, of the heart, you know, and really just because people feel it's a good and right thing to do, not to where you make people feel guilty or like you're, you're pointing finger pointing.
And I would say too, not to denounce the use of those words. If any group feels comfortable, like if that feels like the right thing, I think it's actually really important to recognize that there are such differences from tribe to tribe, or from really like any group of people that might be trying to create something different for themselves, that because they have a different history going into it, there might be a different relationship to a word like reparations or tax.
Right.
So
absolutely.
So it was really important to
find more power to them for being able to say it. I mean, some of ours is most of it comes out of fear, like we're so scared to say something wrong or to act like we're too I mean, because there's still a lot of that damage that and fear that exists from the past. So more power to those folks who can use the word tax with.
I mean, and there's so many factors that go into it.
I never
right?
thought of it that way. That's really interesting. Maybe one day we'll be able to use that word with
probably
freedom and love.
I don't know. I don't doubt. I mean, the fact that it even came to a place where this is a sort of initiative that could be created, it really speaks to I don't know what you'd want to call it, but a growth or an evolution or a shifting, just a change in feeling that's happened for the tribe to even feel a comfort with having a level of visibility in the community, and then to say, yes, we're okay with having this initiative and what it stands for and what it's serving.
And CHIRP really, it formed like a comfortable barrier between the community and the tribe, whereas, you know, I've excuse me, I've talked about this, my mom's feelings a lot, because, you know, she's an elder and she's also on the tribal council. Gosh dang it, excuse me. There's some kind of thing going on. I get all nervous and but it's made a barrier between where CHIRP can ask for these things, and that feels okay to my mom and a lot of mostly the elders. So I've even heard them say, hey, support CHIRP, where they would never have said, hey, support me or support my family or something like that. So it's really grown in beauty. Really.
So it's been exciting to see that develop, and from those, you know, humble beginnings of the team coming together to form the initiative. And I believe it was Nisenan Heritage Day 2018 where Ancestral Homelands Reciprocity program was first revealed to the community. And we did have a small team working with it for a bit. And at some point, energy and time just had to be going into other things with CHIRP. You know, it is predominantly, well, at that point it was all volunteer besides Shelley, and there's only so much that can get done with that capacity. So ARC took a little bit of a, you know, just kind of went a little bit quiet, and at least in terms of the input from CHIRP and from the team. But what we noticed happened was, even though probably for a solid year, we weren't really putting much energy to it at all, maybe an occasional post, that there was a slow but steady growing that was happening. And what's so beautiful in that is really that's the place of where this community initiative was being grown by the community. That there are, let's see, we have 162 monthly, and actually some are annual, but primarily monthly donors at this point with AHRP. And those are primarily personal donations, but there are some businesses, predominantly small businesses, that are a part of that. And there's this kind of somewhat of a specific group of folks, and I think largely on Instagram actually, that are mostly small businesses that regularly seem to tune into CHIRP's social media and track what's going on and uplift it. And encourage people to know about the land acknowledgement and to have that be something that they share at a meeting or an event, or just to know that and acknowledge for themselves, and share the events that are going on, and certainly share Ancestral Homelands Reciprocity program, that they're a part of it, and encouraging others that for those of us who live, work, play, benefit from being on these lands that were tended for thousands of years by the Nisenan, and who are still here today, but to acknowledge we are on Nisenan ancestral homelands. And Shelley, I just noticing what you said earlier about not being able to separate out the health of the tribe, of your family, from the health of the land, like that gives me chills, like for where that speaks to that integration of the people and the land. And so acknowledging that what we are, even for wherever we have not taken care of the land over time, since others have come here, I don't know how deep we want to go into that right now, but that the land is where it is today because of those thousands of years of the Nisenan people being here and being such an integrated part of this place. Yeah. So, going back to the community, that there's really been places where visibility and upliftment happen regularly, and that has directly resulted in AHRP being in the place that it's in now, that it's had such a steady growth even without CHIRP's committed continuous input.
Yeah, it's at first it's always like, if you see a donation come in, I'm like, how do people know? Or something will happen, or we'll do a specific post or a specific event, and then how it picks up. I mean, that is social media, right? I mean, it spreads. People share with their networks, but it's just...
and sometimes without our post to start it. That's what I'll notice, sometimes being in Instagram and seeing, oh, we just got 20 new followers in the past couple hours. Okay, let's see.
Something happened. Who did that?
Somebody locally did a thing, and it generated some visibility.
Yeah, and it's so important because, I mean, it just feels like we're not out there, like punching people, but really like bashing it over their heads, throwing out things like the California genocide of the Native American Indian, things like, I mean, we're not, it feels good that those aren't the conversations that spur a lot of this stuff. Well, those are absolutely part of the reality and the history that's missing from the landscape in a big part, and what we're trying to, annotate the record, trying to get things straight. It feels good that that's not the lead-in to, it feels like people just kind of are getting it, like understanding that, like the folks here didn't be like, yeah, we want to sell California to you, sure, and like made profit and moved away somewhere to live the great life. That is not what happened, and it really comes from education, community education. That's one of the things I missed in saying what CHIRP does. Which is another thing we're working toward, is the building of curriculum. Richard Johnson and I, our tribal chairman, he just put his book out, which, boy, did that make a splash, The History of Us. But we worked with the Smithsonian Institute on their curriculum that they have coming out for high school students, and got a chance to look at the first draft and give suggestions and a little bit of reshaping and inclusion of our history here specifically. So, I mean, these things in the past, because I guess we were extinct, we were never invited to look at a first draft of things, and that includes in big land disturbing projects, where our burials or sacred sites are affected. That those kind of things are finally happening now. I know my grandfather and his generation was never asked when any of the big reservoirs went in that cover our burial grounds and sacred places. And so, things do shift, and I know it's hard sometimes. It feels like, things are so disconnected and so hanky, but I have seen a shift in at least our inclusion. I'm sure it comes from legislation that says, literally in California, they changed one of the words for, a tribe may be consulted to a tribe must be consulted, which really shifted things. But I do see a slow change in culture, in like our modern culture, and how the topic of Native American history and like the land acknowledgement Ember mentioned, that those things are important. Just to know, like I went through all of high school never being seen in our history books. It literally said we were extinct, that our language was extinct and things like this. So changing that whole conversation to be inclusive of the tribe's point of view, because we were here, you know, my ancestors were here, those stories remain, and be able to share those things is just really at the heart of all of cultural preservation. Like if the tribe is said to be extinct, you know, what do you do? So we've really, in the last, I mean, since meeting Judith Lowry, she went looking for us and couldn't find us. It really, that's when it started. And
do you want to say at all who Judith is?
oh, yeah, sure. I would love to. So Judith is CHIRP's founder, and she is a very famous Native American contemporary artist. She's got works all over the country in the big museums. She works in great big canvases. For when I first got to know her, I did, you know, I never really know who people are. I just, like, you could be the president. I probably wouldn't know it. And I'd be like, really? I did not know that about you. Because I just enjoy people and meeting people and knowing who they are themselves without worrying about, like, other things. Which kind of is not always the best for me because I don't always know who I'm talking to. And I may be missing opportunities. I don't know. But with Judith, you know, she had a platform, her art. She talked to me about art for social justice reasons. And, you know, I had seen some of her art on the internet, so it was literally really small. And I had fallen in love with her Star Sisters piece, which is an old, so she's Mountain Maidu Pit River. I believe she's also Washoe. But, you know, she does these big pieces about their creation stories, and they're fabulous. And I had fallen in love with the Star Sisters piece, and then when we were in Washington, D.C. quite a few years back, that's where they were, at the Smithsonian there, and I got to see them, and they're just huge. I mean, obviously she's got so much talent, and the way that she can tell a story with her art is fabulous. And it was because we met Judith and she cared. She saw our erasure here as an injustice that needed to be fixed. And she's just the person she is, where I'm always like, I don't know. I'm getting better as I get older, but I don't like to, like, she called herself the wedge, you know. She's like, I'm the wedge and you guys follow behind me. Here we go, you know. And I'm hanging on, and I'm not that person. And having somebody come into my life who was like, you know, go get up there and talk here, you know, go talk. And like, I would not speak. I would sing in the mic, but like when we played at weddings and stuff, I would never announce the cutting of the cake because I could not literally speak in the microphone. I'd be like, I'm not saying it. You know, it's time to throw the garter. Nope. You say it. I'm not saying it. To go and really understand that it was on my shoulders. I'm the one that knows. I'm the one that can speak. So to get out there and speak, but, you know, Judith, just the literal visibility, creating our first banners that we did for Nisenan Heritage Day, starting Nisenan Heritage Day there with us. As we share this month, I've got some photos of our first Heritage Day. I don't know if it was 2009 or 2010. I think 10. We're standing in the Little Firehouse Museum, which has our baskets and a beautiful photo wall that Judith helped put together with the help of Akeem Ginsky, and got a photo wall of our ancestors, pictures of the old reservation, really where there was zero visibility of the tribe. And what was out there was like, this was them hundreds of years ago. It's too bad they're not around now, and what beauty to be lost, and to be going, but we're right here. But, you know, that was really the catalyst for all of this. And then seeing her, I remember the first time we put together a display. It was in the Alpha building years and years ago, I think as part of Circle's Wild and Scenic Film Festival, and they have the art piece that goes with it. And she came in, I mean, she does museum installation work, and she came in and she did one of those folding blackboards and like had pictures of baskets, and we had done a piece for News from Native California about me revitalizing, a dead song, or however they called it, where I had gotten all the permissions I needed to re-sing this song, which was really the first song that I sang out in public that was in language, in the Nisenan language. So I got all my permissions from the elders who were living, who were associated with that song, to say, is it okay that I sing this in public? And so we'd done that, and then she wrote an article. She and I sort of co-wrote an article, and she'd worked with Malcolm Margolin and News from Native California and Haiti Press for a long time. So she knew the folks there, and we got this article, and so she clipped it all out and put it on foam core, and we made this gorgeous display with a rug and a lamp. And, I mean, it was just gorgeous. And suddenly there was something that was visible and tangible. People could walk by and read. And just seeing, I work really well by seeing things, because, I don't feel that I have skills in most areas. I didn't go to college and, played in a band most of my life. So it's constantly this self-learning and this self-teaching, but being able to see someone like Judith put these things together. And now today, I'm looking around our office here, and we've got art, we've got all of these things, but I got to see how much of an impact that made on people. If you take the time to pay attention to what's been done, get some photos, important, to share. But she started CHIRP, and, then we saw what an asset it was and turned it into the 501c3 nonprofit, so that we could really take advantage. It is our vehicle for moving forward. And then we have to be creative every step along the way. Like, how do you know what you don't know? And it's just like I said in the beginning, you throw a wide net or throw the spaghetti at the wall and you see what sticks. Yeah. And then you make sure, I'm constantly, I cultivate relationships. It's what I do best. I don't believe in strong arming folks, and I don't believe in beating them over the head with information, especially if somebody is, and I say ignorant not in a mean way, but like you don't know what you don't know. And I've seen when people, sometimes you talk about, the pre-Gold Rush history, and we're not trying to take away that Gold Rush life that, we live in gold country. We're not trying to take that away, but we're trying to add to that. Like, there's a whole piece missing that's beautiful, that we can all kind of rejoice in. Absolutely. The resurfacing of this knowledge, and especially in the way that the environment needs our help. There was a way that things were done back then that aren't done now. Some of it is absolutely, I feel so broken that I don't know how you get back to it, but there are pieces that have to be acknowledged, and there's that wisdom of the past. I keep saying the wisdom of the past didn't, follow with us as we got into technology and modern ways, and we really need to pick some of that stuff up and reattach it before it's too late. Not to sound like doom and gloom or whatever, but it really is. It's important, and we do have something to offer that's of value for us and our kids growing up into a world that's so different from what obviously Nisenan culture was like, 10,000 years ago. But that, that leads me into where we are today. So Nisenan Heritage Month, usually yesterday would have been Nisenan Heritage Day, 11th annual. Yeah. So from, the beginnings, those humble beginnings, standing in the firehouse with Judith, I think there were like 7 to 10 people present. She had her laptop open and she was talking about her art. Talk about humble beginnings, If
you've been in the Firehouse Museum in downtown Nevada City, it is a very small space.
It's a very small space.
Tiny.
It's tiny. I agree.
And if you haven't been there, when it's open again, I recommend checking that out. There is a Nisenan collection in there.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Some of the great big feasting baskets that I had never actually seen one in person until I started when I started being a docent there. But yeah, it's a great place to go. But it leads to, yesterday would have been our in-person Nisenan Heritage Day, obviously with the large gathering restrictions and COVID, we want to be responsible. So we were just going to do an online Nisenan Heritage Day event, virtual. We're also scheduled for November 25th was our farm-to-table harvest dinner, which has been turned out. Again, it's one of those things that someone offered, farms came forward. I mean, all volunteer, all absolute, just gifted donations, turned into our biggest fundraiser of the year. And so with COVID times,
this would have been the third.
This would have been the third.
Yeah.
And the last two were just fabulous. They were beautiful. So between those two events, we raised about $40,000. That obviously is a huge piece of CHIRP's budget for being in steadfast motion toward our mission always, which is to preserve, protect, and perpetuate Nisenan culture. So what we decided to do is to take both events and combine them together into this month-long virtual offering. Because in California, November is also Native American Heritage Month. So what a perfect pairing. So yes, we coined it Nisenan Heritage Month, and thusly we also thought what a wonderful opportunity to launch our video series, our show that I've talked about, wanting to do for quite some time. Maybe pairing a blog with it, podcast
Yeah.
at some point in time, for all those of you who are driving all around the place and need to just listen to me and Ember talk for your entire drive. We're there for you.
You and lots of guests.
Lots of guests. So the vision for the show is to continue. There are just so many stories. There are so many people, places, events, wishes, talks. I mean, just even the random conversations that there feels like there's just never enough time to talk about and to share. Those things that I think really help others see the value where it may not be. It's like, I've actually heard people say, well, we thought we killed y'all. What are you doing back here? To really shape the mindset and to get folks who just don't care and it's not on your radar to have a moment where you're like, wow, okay, I get it. And moving people that way, I feel comes from relationship building and comes from the true sharing of our stories, our history, our people, who they were, who they are today, how in trouble the entire tribal membership is. I mean, there's just, no one has ever stabilized from those times of destruction. It's just the way it is. I know it's uncomfortable to hear, and I don't like it to feel like I'm, playing this, but at the same time, it's a fact. And they are some of the most vulnerable population. During COVID, we had several tribal members get COVID. Luckily, we didn't lose anybody. But there's just so much to share, and I felt what a great way to do it.
Yeah, and speaking of supporting stabilization of the tribe, Nisenan Heritage Month is an educational offering, a community engagement, and it's a fundraiser. And I'm curious if you want to say just a little bit about where funds go.
Yeah, I've spoken a bit about the CHIRP programs, which, none of them have been realized yet. I mean, honestly, we need to be a multi-million-dollar organization, nonprofit organization. If I were to be able to write out all the programs and all the projects that have been identified and those that may still need to be identified, because sometimes, like I said, you just don't know what you don't know. Like, there may be answers to some of these things. I just learned about historic trauma just a few years back. I didn't know that word. It wasn't part of my vocabulary. Now I know that word. Now, what's to do about it? I don't know. I'm sure there are models out there other tribes are engaging in. We're talking about the boarding school system that, you know, is really opening up. Canada did it first with their Truth and Reconciliation with the tribes, that the government ran federally funded boarding schools that were usually run by a church, a ministry of some kind, and forcibly took the Indian kids, and the mantra was to kill the Indian and save the man, to totally swipe them clean of all culture and civilize them. And my grandpa and all his siblings were in boarding school. So there's actually a boarding school coalition that's happening in America now that's talking about truth and reconciliation, and California is doing the same thing. But all of these things, you know, it's an interesting moment for me because we received a grant for leadership development and capacity development, and that's what. Well, it was a grant and it was on the paper. It takes me a while maybe just to realize sometimes that, oh, right, as I develop my leadership capacity, I can do more. Maybe it's going to take, instead of 10 years, like the past 10 years to get from A to B, maybe because my knowledge has increased and there's more capacity and I'm getting a salary, that I have more capacity to handle more as CHIRP gets more staff.
And more community awareness.
More
that's
community
awareness.
Key,
right?
Right. So like
that
when
it's
we
not
have,
just you.
We have some, I mean, not that I can't do it all. This might take me a while.
That's what
no,
she thinks.
I'm kidding. But like, you know, when we had our first people like Akeem who came in and did photos for us, was a big deal. Judith using her art, another huge jump, like it's a light years jump in like this thing that's been just not even, maybe sliding backwards because of the erasure of the people. Like getting it to move forward like was a thing, and then we're moving forward, and every time we have somebody come on, Kit with his video skills. I mean, I can't even name all of our team and our community that come forward.
Many.
It usually like in the nick of time, like, what are we going to do? And they're like, oh, I happen to have that skill. And we're like, what? No way, you know? A lot of magic. I feel maybe I'm using my entire lifetime of magic all up in these last 10 years. I don't know. But building the capacity of the organization to get staff, one of our funders said the biggest and most effective way to build capacity is staff. And I'd never even like conceived of that before. But those funds, you know, other than just the structure of CHIRP, there are projects that are just waiting to be implemented. You know, it's been a desire for the tribe for a very long time to make their regalia so that we can have a dance group. It's very important. We dance not for entertainment, it's not supposed to be a show where we go and dance somewhere for someone's entertainment. We dance for the land and the ancestors. When you're using your feet and you're singing and you're doing your prayers there, that's what it's for. So if we're not, you know, if we're not able to do that, I feel like we're kind of putting a tourniquet on our arm.
And definitely not to like co-opt that in any way and make it about anything other than the tribe, but there's a way then that all of us are losing something, whether we're connected to that culture or understand it or not. Like, I
mean, there's a way that in culture, all of these dances and the reverence of the animals, that a lot of them are gone, like the grizzly was a big part of turning the seasons. I mean, that humans are responsible for these pieces that we're not doing anymore. And it does benefit everybody living in any geographic place. But, you know, the education, getting our history and our language and stuff into archives where they're retrievable. I literally have thousands of documents in my phone in Dropbox from the last time we were in Washington, D.C., and we were in the archives looking at language. And I stood there, I flipped the page, and I think Dr. Sherry Tash, our linguist, took a picture. And we're literally doing this because why? CHIRP doesn't have $15,000 to have the museum do it for us. Sure would be a lot easier than them sitting in my phone. So when I'm looking for a word, I'm like, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. But those, and what beauty it would be for the tribe to have a database that it can access as we're revitalizing language. I mean, it's an absolute piece that must happen. You can't you just can't do one without the other. I mean, we can dance in street clothes, but if you're in regalia, that's the way it's supposed to be done. So, you know, the basket weaving, the language, especially for the kids, very passionate about language. Luckily, our linguist, Sherry Tatch, we had tried for a couple grants and we were unsuccessful. And she said, if we keep waiting to be funded, it's going to be too late. And she invited us into her home where we sat for 12 weeks, I think 12 Mondays in a row. We were invited into her home and she taught us language. Like that was the, you know, and then we've tried to build on from there. She gave us lessons, and we did get a $3,000 grant from the Bessie Minor Swift Foundation
Last year.
where we put together 6 lessons where she specifically put lessons together so that us as advanced language, which I don't feel like an advanced language student, but an advanced language student had 6 lessons that I could teach to other tribal members who had no language. $3,000, it went so far. I mean, and then the other thing is the federal recognition. You know, these are monumental tasks. I think that CHIRP could focus on any one of these things and probably put all of our time and effort into just one, but we can't. When you're doing preserving, protecting, and perpetuating a culture, an entire culture that had been almost successfully completely erased, it's a big work. And, you know, that I sometimes feel bad because I have to pick and choose from these projects, like what can actually happen. You know, what can we do? What can we actually get on the ground? And so much of it is, I mean, for years I did it with no pay, and my family is the one who paid for me to travel. And that's really, I mean, I don't want to say that's not fair because it's my responsibility. But I think the value of it is once we get on the other side of it, like if other people had a database and they were excited about the language outside of the tribe, then I feel like we're giving something of value. We have value. We just have to get these things on the ground to make it tangible.
Yeah,
You know?
and it's a big work, like you say, and it's a long process.
It's a long process.
Yeah, and it's, especially if we look at how short the time frame was to actually nearly completely erase a people and a culture that had been here for thousands and thousands of years. It's a much longer process to try to like pull any of that back in, and I think that that's really important to keep in mind and to understand. And also I feel like there's the things that you were just speaking to, you know, so this is Nisenan Heritage Month is a fundraiser, but everything you're speaking to is really highlights. It's great for us to give donations, and it's needed, and it's valued, and it's bigger than that. What I keep feeling is that it's important for there to be a real engagement, a real connection. You know, not simply the act of making a donation, and of course not everybody has access to making that donation, which is absolutely understood. And really, though, it's that engagement with learning the true history of these lands that we're living on, learning the history of the people who have always been here and are still here, learning whatever we're able. And a thing that I really appreciate about that is not only by my engaging and learning, am I actually doing something to support CHIRP and to support the tribe by acknowledging and supporting, like just a little bit, like taking away that erasure. It's also feeding me, like because I do live here, learning these histories is connecting me more to the land that I live on, having a deeper understanding. It shapes my perspectives of being here in a way that has been feeling really profound. That gives me a greater connection to my own home. So to me, I just keep feeling like it's this beautiful weaving, and that there's a way that's actually what CHIRP is inviting us into with Nisenan Heritage Month, is a beautiful weaving of, there's amazing content being shared that's, some of it's new, some of it's archived, some of it's not new, but it's never been shared. Right?
Or it was, and like 4 people saw it because
Right.
it was me doing it, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I said something about it on a Facebook post one day,
Right.
right? And people are like, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but there's so much to share. And not to discount or, make small the act of fundraising and funds. As somebody who I never had like a fabulous relationship with money, because when none of my family ever had money, so it's like, well, you don't have money, you do what you need to do, and you make it happen anyway. But almost, let's say equally as important, is just when people say Nisenan, when people say in conversation, Nisenan, we're undoing the past. We're undoing it, and I feel like we're standing in, like, like the big wheel that tried to smash something out, and we're still here, and we keep popping back up. And if somebody says Nisenan, because we'd been called Maidu for so long, just lumped under a label that somebody else put on us. It's not, there are 4 separate tribes, separate cultures, separate people, separate geographies that have been labeled Maidu for so long. People don't know, and you don't understand. We do not identify as Maidu. We are Nisenan. My grandpa said, we're not Maidu, we're Nishanan, is how he said it. And just that one change has unerased an entire people.
And I would say that, along with that, the shape of our towns tell the history of this being a gold mining town, a gold mining place. So when the more people are knowing that the Nisenan are who are here and always been here, or acknowledging that, or acknowledging the land, it's also helping to reshape that culture that we are simply a gold mining region.
Well,
that's where history started.
Extractionism, right, across the planet. That's another show topic right there. We'll talk about that.
Yes.
But we're working toward this lofty goal of raising $30,000 this month. We won't have the expenses that we would have normally when we put on Heritage Day and the farm dinner harvest fundraiser. But at the same time, it feels like a lofty goal, but it's absolutely doable. People have just been stepping up and stepping out, and every dollar helps. My mom and I both donate every month to CHIRP. I give 15 and Mom gives 10, and it's to also show our support for this organization. It feels kind of funny because we receive benefit in some way, I guess you could say. It's for us, but yet at the same time, my entire household donates. My husband donates, my dad donates now monthly, my mom and I, we all donate to CHIRP. And so I would love to throw that out as a challenge. Like, our tribal members also donate. We don't feel like we're apart from the responsibility of making things happen. And if my mama can do it, I know we can all do it. She doesn't have any money, and but it's of great importance to her. But in the fundraising, we've thought. It's a GoFundMe that had but this team, idea of building your own team and setting a goal for your team. A fundraising goal. I think we have one team who's raising $5,000. Two teams doing $5,000, a $3,000 and a $2,000.
And there have been a couple new teams added, I think.
I'm so excited.
I've been seeing some, yes.
So
need to check on that.
And so what we decided to do is, because at Heritage Day and the dinner, we usually have raffle prizes or door prizes or something, where community, for most organizations, I suppose, they give items that can be raffled or donated or whatever. So we still have in place for the individual or team that raises the most, we have a grand prize that we've figured out. And we're also giving away a prize every week for those of you who have donated in that week. We're going to pick the name tonight, aren't we,
First
for this
one.
week?
Yeah,
Woo!
first one tonight.
I'm so excited.
Yes.
But, I really do. I challenge you, if you see the value in the work that's happening, if you see a value in, just in the conversation itself, its history, its place, its people, its time and how we change as communities over time. It's just really, it's also, I'm a history bug and a research bug, so it feeds a lot of my own personal stuff you know, that I like anyway, doing the genealogies for the tribe and stuff like that. But I challenge you, if you find value in the work that we're doing, please support CHIRP, support the work that's being done, support getting all these other very valuable programs and projects out on the ground.
Yeah.
Support our strives in this federal recognition. I keep having these, I don't want to call them visions because I'm not a visionary in that way, but I keep feeling like something's going to happen. I don't know what it is yet, but I feel like something's going to happen. I wish I knew what it was. Somebody give me the end of the book, quick. But I feel it's crackly to me, and it feels like we're on the right path. And I know there's a lot of work to be done, and the mountain is high. But if I forget to turn around and look how far we've come, I'm not doing justice to the organization, and I'm not doing justice to myself or my tribe. And so that's what this month is about, is I hope that we can go into the archives and into some of the, I mean, we're doing a good job of sharing.
Yeah. So much content has been shared
so much
already.
stuff
If you
to
go
share.
to CHIRP's Facebook page or Instagram.
Yeah.
And when Shelley says to support, you can support, again, by learning about the history of the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan, by understanding how CHIRP and the tribe work together. You can do that by donating, and you can do that just by spreading the word, by sharing with others, so that we know that more of the community is having an understanding of who is here, and that we do get to reshape our culture together, because really more of us are needed in it. And
Absolutely. Find those creative ways to, that's been another thing that I think is sort of kind of a blessing and a curse sometimes, is like, because we don't know how to do all these things, and there's not a template for doing a lot of this work, because it's sometimes being done for the first time, we get to be super creative. Like some of the projects that we've done, like our partnership with the guy who does the jewelry.
All right.
Who at first
More
we
to
were
come
like,
on that.
That's a good one right there. But it was like, okay, he makes jewelry, and like, how do we fit that into something somehow? And we find a way, because it's creative, and like, it's sort of an open platform. What can we do together? How creative can we be to make this successful?
Yeah. And since we're not having any flashy graphics for this first episode, it is a more raw and unedited first episode.
It's just Amber and I sitting here.
That's right.
Yeah.
But since there's no graphics, just to give you an easy way to find anything, you can go to nisenan.org. It's NISENAN.org, and that will take you to CHIRP's page, to Nevada City Rancheria, to Ancestral Homelands Reciprocity Program. You can find our links to social media there. We will have, I think in the next few days, a page within CHIRP's page for Nisenan Heritage Month. So all of the content will be collected there.
Awesome.
So if you're not on social media, everybody will still have access.
Yeah.
You can sign up for the newsletter. We're also sharing content there. So
if you go to the GoFundMe page, you can create your own team.
Right. Well, and I say that because to find the GoFundMe right now, it would probably be easiest to do by going to nisenan.org, going to the Facebook page, or in GoFundMe, you can search Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan, and the fundraising campaign will likely come up for you there. So lots of ways to find us. There's so many there's, of course, so much that's always been around, but now there's so much that's been gathered up and that you can actually find online. So there are ways for us to go and like learn more about the Nisenan without having to tax the capacity of tribe members to say, teach us. So
Not that we don't want to, it's just,
but you're doing it. You're doing it through having all of these things available.
I've always said,
There's
one day
lots
I'm
of-
going to have a curriculum I can pass to people, and one day there's going to be a link where I can go, here you go, and all those things are happening. So,
all happening.
and then just to wrap up, I know this has been a long episode. We were going to keep it to 15 minutes, and then the battery ran out at a half hour, and now we're deep into the second battery. So, but with this show, it will continue. There will probably be a produced version at some point in time that is,
more packaged. Yes.
Yeah, like this, that, stop talking about
Polished.
everything in the world. But I wanted to bring a little bit of attention to, like, we are sitting in front of this incredible Blackmagic camera right now. And this camera package with our lighting, we came and did some set design, set up our audio, all these things, and that is through the grant that we did with the Nevada City Film Festival and Nevada County Arts Council, through the California Arts Council grant that we got. And so we have the ability now, like the stage
just got the equipment.
Just got the equipment.
Week.
It is set up here now. We can literally come in and push record and bring these episodes your way. Someday I hope that they're a little more produced. We'll be working on our intro and our whatever
Exit?
it's called, exit, whatever, however you get in and out of shows, with the show's title and, grasp those things. But this couldn't have happened without the great team at Nevada City Film Festival. We had the professionals in showing us how to run the camera, how to build the camera, how to make it all work. And that Ember and I, we had help with Smokey this morning. He had to come in and remind us how to
use the camera.
Make sure you turn this on and do this and that. But we are actually able, which last week, if somebody said that we would be filming ourselves, I would have been like,
yeah, it's
so.
only Shelly and myself in the room right now. That is
and we're
all.
still doing
Here
it.
we are.
We'll have to do a bit of editing and piecing together, but it's pretty minimal. And I just want to say thanks for making that happen. The timing is perfect. Stay tuned during Nisenan Heritage Month, and all the ways that Ember said, please go find us. Please spread the word. Please start your teams. It's this friendly, competitive fundraising aspect that we've never really had before, and I'm really excited about it. If you have the capacity, if you have friends, gather your team together. You get to name it. You can make like your own little graphics and stuff for your team.
Yeah, you can put videos in there.
And go online and see what those prizes are. And, if you're so moved, help us get the ball rolling. It's a lofty goal, and we really need to meet that $30,000 this month. So, in closing, thank you.
Thank you, Shelly.
Thank you for being my cohort. Oh, don't touch me. Hey, hey. Fake, sick, psych. All right, then. Well, until next time, stay tuned, spread the word. Ekwa.